Thank you. Again, my name is Adam Perkins. I'm a community engagement specialist, and I specialize in small communities and HOAs. I've been doing this for a number of years now, helping HOAs get through stopgaps. So many times HOAs get so stuck because it's very difficult to work in an environment where it's like a little mini city. You have your board of directors, like a city council, and they're having to act in the best interest of the entire community. But getting that input from the community can be very difficult. So we're going to take you through a whole process here to try to make sure everyone is heard, make sure all the issues are on the table, and everyone feels that they are listened to, and we can synthesize that as best as possible into a complete plan to move forward. So today, as I will now begin to talk about what we're going to talk about today, in the outline of the meeting, we're going to start that process to forge a path forward. And I always begin these meetings with a little bit of introduction on what an HOA is, because many people sometimes forget about it or don't know exactly what it is, but it's made up of you, the members. It's a way for that builder to transfer the ownership of those common areas to you guys, so you guys now all own this common land together. The concept originally came about in the mid to late 1800s, and it was a response to the industrialization. They wanted to find a way to have communities outside of that city's squalor. And so the concept was to build these multiple communities with local control. Now, it didn't really take off until after the post-World War II housing boom, when a bunch of suburbia was built. And all those homes had all these common areas, and there was just tons of them. And so now we're seeing a time period a little bit removed into the 21st century where we're having to deal with these older HOAs that have these common ownerships and common responsibilities. It's a number of issues that we have to try to deal with. And so hopefully through this process, we can help Prospector's Point also deal with those issues. So today, the reason why we're here is because the buildings are in major need of repair. I think you guys all know that. We're going to go into detail on what that all is. We're going to talk about where we are in this process, where it begins and how it's going to keep going forward. We're going to talk about what has already been done so far. And then we're going to talk about what you as a community want and help begin that process to set that vision. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to get there. And after we go through that presentation, we're going to have a structured exercise where we all get to have a talk and help develop some of these concepts as a community. And after that, it'll be an open forum where everyone will have a chance to line up at the microphones and speak and also ask questions to a panel up here. And so today, you can see there's this process we're going to go through, beginning with Captivate, which is where we're still at, and going to the collaboration, start collaborating these ideas, and generating some possible solutions, and then evaluating those possible solutions and moving to activation. And now it's key that we know where we are in that process. So we're still in Captivate, so we're not in generating solutions through the collaboration process. So we're going to start getting everyone on the same page first, then begin to generate some solutions. And again, we're not in that evaluation section where we're judging those ideas. We want to make sure we have a free and openness to be able to provide those ideas and then begin to evaluate them based on what we're hearing from the community and that vision. Then moving to the activation and implementation. So again, I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail. I do this a lot because it's very important. So the Captivate is fact gathering and people gathering. CAP management and HOAs, a number of fact gathering, getting expert opinions to make sure everyone has those facts. And now we're beginning that people gathering process, getting as many people as possible here, a live video feed, videotape us afterwards to make sure everyone has a chance to be at the table, because this HOA is made up of all the members. And it's very important to understand that no decision has been made. That we want to make sure we hear from you and make sure all of that, you guys have your chance to speak. And today we'll begin to that collaboration process. There are a number of people here, all with their own ideas, own thoughts. And we want to make sure that how do you deal with that? How do you deal with all of these words everywhere? Everyone has something that's important to them. We need to make sure they all have a chance or heard and a way to synthesize that into an overall goals and vision to base any decisions on. And then we'll go into that evaluation So at the same time we're generating possible solutions, we're generating those goals and visions. We can use those too to evaluate. We'll evaluate and propose decisions on how effective they are at reaching those goals and that vision. And we'll do some number analysis at subsequent meetings to see how that works. And then of course the ultimate goal, why we're doing all this, is to reach some sort of plan of action that we can get the majority of homeowners to stand behind and move forward, and then implement it and monitor it all the way through to the end. So again, here's that process. I will keep reiterating it where we are in that process. So we are in that Captivate process, hoping to move that collaboration process, where we're gathering community input and defining options and moving forward. And then through community meeting 3, if it takes that long, then we will move into that decision and activation and moving forward. So it's not we're saying how it goes, the community is going to say how it goes. So that process has a lot to balance, and we're going to go through today. So what's the existing conditions of where things are at? We have the City of Westminster and the requirements they're requiring. We have some work has already been completed, and that has to also be thought into this process. There's the budget and how much it's going to cost and what this means, at the end of the day. There's the community input that is integral to the whole thing. There are possible options because there's more than one way to get through this. We want to make sure we cover all of those. Moving to a decision and plan forward. So for the benefit of people who may not have been on site for a while, and there's a lot of people who don't live there, we have just some pictures here of some of the issues, some of the areas of the buildings and some of the disrepair going on. As you can see underneath the balcony, there's a lot of water damage. In concrete. And then a short video here.
Danger. Keep out.
Can you guys hear that?
Mailboxes. Neglected for years. Rusted through. 2 of the mailboxes have fallen in the last 14 months. The mailboxes have since been replaced. The tennis court and half basketball court are in very poor condition. The top surfaces have delaminated, causing trip hazards throughout the courts. Scaffolding has been put up at building 2720 to start replacement of the bricks that fell during a windstorm. This is building 2720. We're showing ill-advised structural support that was done to shore up the 2nd and 3rd level walkways. This shoring that was done is also failing, as the pictures show. Siding issues, trim issues throughout the building where the siding was not completed. This is a picture of 8470 where we have choice problems. And our storm drain basin. The pumps have not been working correctly for years. This is building 8685.
It's actually
where we are
8675,
already seeing
sorry.
Rust issues in the newer buildings where you least expect it. This picture is from 8675. Again, this is at the stairwell at 8675. These are the 2 newer buildings, but there is already rust issues that need to be taken care of now so that you don't have the conditions that you're seeing on some of the buildings at the south end of the project. Again, this is 8675, one of the newer buildings. Already, the paint is failing and rust is showing. Inherent building design issues. Downspouts cut through all of the walkway areas, allowing water to collect at the floor joists. Third level drops all of the water onto the second level patio, causing the handrails to rust and deteriorate on the second level. This is a shot from underneath the third level deck at 2740. This is a shot along the third walkway at 2740, where you can see the numerous patching attempts that have not worked. Again, we're showing the second level and third level at 2740, where the most severe deterioration of the walkway surface and the handrails has occurred. This condition is beginning in all of the other buildings. This is the worst. This is what will happen if the other buildings are not taken care of as soon as possible. The concrete has fallen, is separating. The entire walkway has now dropped to half an inch below where it should be in level. Properties are already becoming vacant. People are leaving the area. The downspouts penetrate each walkway. In most cases, the penetrations are not protected. The water comes from the top of the walkway and is held in place by the lower level ceiling. These floor joists were sitting in water for years. And finally, our keep out sign.
All right, well, I apologize for the dramatic nature of that, but it's hard not to make it dramatic when there are so many different types of issues. Some of those things have been repaired. This video was taken a while ago, but it was what we had and wanted to make sure that we did show it. I want to talk about what City of Westminster has told the HOA, and they're using the order to correct of the rental code. And they're showing that each building does currently contain at least one registered rental unit. And so that's the law they're using to say there are some issues and it's not safe for rentals until it's corrected. What that means is if it doesn't comply, it's a public nuisance, and the enforcement could be fines or jail. The city is not saying they're going to do that. We're working with the city as much as possible and making sure we're making improvements, but that the city is watching closely and is here to answer questions. The insurance policy has also sent a letter displaying some issues that they've noticed. Some are pretty simple, sorry it's kind of hard to read, but about fire extinguishers. They are noticing that there's been some barricaded areas around the walls, and they see that as a danger and would like to see the HOA moving towards protecting that for liability reasons. So what has been done so far? Well, one of the first things that was done was hire an expert engineer to do an investigation and look into all the details and what are we not seeing, what else is going on, and if before we begin any kind of improvements, make sure we're matching, that we're doing things correctly and not wasting money, that makes sure every improvement is made is in within a structured plan, so part of that is that fact gathering process. And so here today, actually, we have someone from Martin & Martin Engineering, Kevin Dunham, who has agreed to come in and talk about his experiences on that site. Would you like to use the stand-up or the handheld? Okay.
As indicated, I am Kevin Dunham with Martin & Martin. We specialize, or specifically I specialize in structural stabilization repairs and waterproofing issues. So this fell right into something that we see quite frequently. We were contacted by CAP management due to issues or concerns that the City of Westminster raised regarding the stability of these walkway structures and other items on the property. Based on that, we performed an investigation of the entire complex to evaluate the damage, prioritize the severity of the damage based on buildings, and then provide repair recommendations. As we went through, we basically noted two main factors that were of concern to us. One being the walkways, which you've seen pictures of, but significant water damage, deterioration due to the water getting through the concrete walking surface, sitting on that wood plywood deck, and then causing saturation to the joists, to the edge beams, and numerous of those beams have been damaged, broken, split. You see sagging in some of those. So ongoing damage occurring at those locations. The brick at the end of each building, the ties were corroded due to water infiltration through the brick, through the top course, causing those ties to basically deteriorate to nothing and allowing the brick to blow off in that one instance. And so providing repair recommendations to address that as well. Our repairs we've formulated some ideas to address an all-encompassing repair of these walkways and of the brick veneer so that the ongoing damage doesn't occur. What we've seen through our investigation is that spot repairs have been made periodically in the past. However, those spot repairs just tend to push the damage to the adjacent area. And so you might have an area where things have been taken care of, although right adjacent to it there's significant damage and deterioration. And so an all-encompassing plan is prudent in terms of stopping the damage and in terms of saving money long-term for this complex, in our opinion.
Thank you very much. Yes, there is. So we've also, Jean has also created a non-compliance punch list of showing some items that she is starting to address. And they're divided up in a number of different categories as she can track what has been done. And the check marks are life safety issues. And so you can see some items have been completed. You can keep moving this forward. All these documents are on the website. And so please, after this meeting, make sure you go there and download them and keep track of what's going on with the HOA. We're going to go over a little bit of summary of what has been completed. So first and foremost, CAP has formulated a team to start addressing these issues and working with the city and Martin to make sure that we can understand what's happening. Some of the potholes are fixed in the parking lot. And no time was wasted in to start getting at some of this as soon as possible. But without community input, not the major items can't be done without making sure they hear from the community members. So that's what we're here today. A number of other items that they've gone through. Again, this is on the website to go into more detail. And a number of bids have been gathered to get some of this work, including stuff for the siding and all of the rest of the work that Jean is going to go through over in a little bit. I'm trying to move a little bit faster because we had such a late start, so I apologize about that. Again, all of that stuff is on the website. We're going to go into more detail when Jean has a chance to talk here in a moment. So, that was a lot of information in what does all of this mean? It's just right now it's a bunch of just facts and pictures and numbers and bullets. A lot of people here. And so before we start getting into that discussion, we want to discuss what the current HOA dues are. And we have noted as being new to this project that the dues were 180 back in 2012 and raised to 205. But again, both those numbers we found are below the industry average. There are no usable amenities right now, but there are many amenities that are there. Here are some other HOAs of a similar age.
Give me a break. You look like Cherry Creek Village, right?
Well, they're
Yeah, Cherry Creek Village. There you go.
and a number of them do have tennis courts. The most expensive one does have a pool. But
We have nothing.
exactly. So the whole point is budgets are very tight in HOAs. There's a lot of... This was not a complete analysis. This was just a look at what is here. And so with the existing funding, what has been able to done has been mostly Band-Aid fixes. There's been a lack of a complete understanding of all issues, and some of the life safety issues require immediate but temporary fixes. So again, that costs money to do those immediate but temporary fixes, which inhibits the ability to make that overarching fix and improvement. and where we need to focus on things. Well, I remember the you in that is everyone in this room.
Help us.
Okay. So there are some original design flaws, and there was a lawsuit for some of the siding, and there are some bids out there to fix some of that. So that is one issue for those original reasons. There was no cover over that third balcony, so all the water and then the salt gets put on there and causes more and more of that water damage. There was never an engineering analysis or a holistic plan, so it's hard to make those issues. I mean, HOAs are made up of the members and board of directors who are not experts in this. That's why I talked at the beginning about what is an HOA. It's local control of that community, which sometimes works great. You guys can do it well. This keeps cutting out? Okay, I might switch. Dean, is that out? Maybe I'll try to do both. But without that whole structure to make sure things are done correctly, it can be very difficult to make sure things are done correctly. And so that's what this whole process is to make sure that we are going to do this correctly and help out a small community be able to make these very tough decisions and do it in a smart, structured, and deliberate way. This is not unheard of for HOAs. Just this weekend, I was reading the newspaper, and the New York Times had an article about a condominium on Fifth Avenue, just saying that they also came up with a very similar issue on a much larger scale, the $30 million project they had to do. And these things sneak up on HOAs over time because there's no way to figure that out without figuring this out, what we're doing today. And so it happens across the country, it's happened across Denver. HOAs have been closed down and condemned. Some HOAs have gotten through this. We want to make sure that you guys are on the ladder and can make it through this and figure out what you want to do with the HOA. So there's a cost of inaction with this. Right now, the city is saying it's not safe to rent. The majority of these units are rental units, and so that is a big hit to many of these owners if they're unable to rent their properties. That's their investment, and they're going to want to try to get out. And it's, of course, it's a safety issue, making sure that everyone is safe on their property, both people who live there and guests. And every single building has an issue. Some are more serious than others, and some are getting more serious if it's not taken care of as soon as possible. And the list of repairs is growing constantly until we can start working on a fix. And of course, this has a direct effect on property values, which is in everyone's interest in this room, as all members of this HOA. And so Gene's going to go over a little bit of the preliminary cost estimates. Again, this is on the website, and you can find this in more detail. But Gene, you wouldn't mind coming up, talking a little bit about what work you've been doing to gather estimates and from what kind of companies and that kind of thing.
Actually, my name is Mary Jean McDonald. You may see that on paper sometime. So I just want to let you know. I've been in construction for the past 35 years, 30 of those years here in Denver. I've had my license in Denver since 1990 and in 17 other municipalities throughout the state. So,
sorry.
you're looking at some big numbers there. And where do they come from? How do we get those? These are numbers that I've been working with Martin and Martin, with their structural designs for areas that need to be corrected. Their numbers based on the rental code, non-compliance issues that need to be taken care of. There are numbers that we put together for basic maintenance items. Excuse me. Now I have a dry mouth. For example, on what do we do about that tennis court? Do you put another surface on it? Do you tear it out and have it redone with new materials? Or do you do something else? I mean, those are all things we've looked at. But the numbers you see up here, that great big number at the top, that is for fixing the items that were identified by Martin and Martin. These are items for, and there is a list, it's on the website. It lists problems in every building. Some are more severe than other buildings. Some buildings have more of one and less of another, but every building has some problems. If you don't address some of these problems, the problems that are in the building next door today will be your problem 5 years from now. That's a fact. Yeah, Judy, we're getting there. You'll have your time. So, how we got these numbers? We took Martin & Martin's drawings. They have drawings for the buildings and for specific corrections for the walkways, for the joists underneath, for the handrails. We've asked general contractors of record to put together unit pricing. So if I have unit pricing for X number of square feet to make a correction on a walkway, I can use that number for the next building, and the next building, and the next building. So that's how the numbers that we used. The contractors that we went out to, we reached out to, are contractors that have experience working with restoration and repairs. They're contractors that have worked in housing developments where people still have to live there. It's one thing to build a new building. It's another to make corrections while people still have to live there. We reached out to some big companies, some medium-sized companies, and in some, for some issues, some small companies. But I can guarantee you, every company was pre-qualified, and I wouldn't be embarrassed at all to work with them on this property, and I believe we have solid numbers. This is what it's going to take if we started today to make all the corrections. Now, there's no fluff in this budget. There really isn't. There's nothing fancy in this budget. Okay? It is the best budget we could put together with the information we have today. So, now, nothing's signed off on. Nobody's been hired. You have a lot of tough decisions to make. But if you want the property to be at least a Class C property, if you want the investment you have in your home to stay a solid investment, you're going to have to look at these repairs. You know when you walk through the parking lot. You know when you walk up to your unit. You know what you see. Some of it's cosmetic, some of it's not. So, you have some tough choices. Hopefully, if you decide to make some of those choices, the CAP management team, and perhaps myself, Martin and Martin, we can work with you and try to get the best price for the best product. Okay? All right, guys, that's it. All these numbers, everything we've talked about, it's on the website. Excuse me?
I do not know the exact word, but Frank maybe can.
Okay, if you just go to CAP Management, excuse me. Yeah, just go to capmanagement.com.
Actually, if you want to, oh, sorry, it's a
Okay,
big
go
hot mic. If you want to see the documents, they're actually on the Prospectors Point website, which is www.prospectorspointhoa.com. And you'll see 3 tabs at the top. The tab furthest to the right says Documents. This one, I think, I'll have to get put up tonight. But I have the others that Adam have showed so far. I do think I still need to post the document with Jean's actual numbers. And then, of course, tomorrow we'll have the video.
I just wanted to say one more thing. We talk about the city and the non-compliance list. That city list, you know, the city just wants all the properties to be good neighbors with all the other properties. They just want your property to be the kind of property that you'd like to live next to. That's what that's for. It's to try to keep your property at least at a C value, you know, to be good neighbors, to keep the properties in good shape.
It's like that. It's not very
Okay,
Exactly. It's very difficult to figure out who's at blame. We're all in this now. This is the members of HOA, and we're moving forward to the future.
yeah.
So, thank you, Jean. That is a very, very big number. And it's very, very scary. Thank you. Everyone is very happy, it seems. And that divided by 400 is also an extremely, extremely big number. No one that I know has that kind of money just lying around to pay. It's very scary. But the reason why we've done this math is to say, here's the magnitude of the issues. What are we going to do now? If we can understand the magnitude, then maybe we can start moving forward to figure out what the possible options are. So, now what? There are 400 units, which means 400 plus different ideas. Those ideas need to be talked about in a plan and move forward with the priorities. But right now, everyone is doing their own thing. And this is a traffic jam in Iraq with absolutely no control. And you can see that no cars can really move forward. Not much happens there. Moving through. So how do you get all of those cars to move together in a functioning path? Because if everyone's off doing their own thing, if one board comes up and does a small issues, that board gets overturned. They come up, do a bunch of small issues, nothing ever gets done. How do you stop that pattern and bring a whole HOA moving forward as one unit? And that's what everyone is trying to do now, is find that way to move forward as a unit. And so developing that, So developing that plan is going to be possibly a number of things. Looking at the budget line by line, where can we cut things in that budget? Potentially a special assessment, potentially many other ideas. There are numerous other ideas that we've heard that we ourselves have come up with, and they all need to be discussed and figured out what that possible is to then move into a phased plan. The budget is also on the website. All the financials will get posted on the website, and they have to be approved, so they're always a little bit behind. That's how all HOAs are. I think the most recent one is March, which is very good for HOAs to have that posted, and they get posted as soon as they can. Of course, documents are always available to go see that, but most of these services are required as far as maintaining that common land. As an HOA, you have that space. It's 400 homes and all of the associated exterior buildings and common areas. That is a huge expense. For most single-family homes, that's a big part of their yearly budget. And a part of that is getting that HOA money to come in and pay for it. It can be even more expensive now when we have all of this land and amenities to deal with that. But we need to figure out what the community's values are in order to then judge that budget and find areas of trimming and being more trim with where the budget is run. Who has that kind of money for a $15,000 special assessment? It's very unlikely that if that happened, that they would get a very good pay amount. So we need to figure out, make sure what do people want to do, how much, can it be a phased plan, and figure out methods to make sure we have that budget to make any repairs that are in that plan. And loans. Originally, loans were not a possibility because of a high delinquency rate for the HOA. But it has to be down to 10%, which cap management over the past, since they've been hired on, has been diligently working to move that delinquency rate down, which we are now getting close to that 10%. So this loan is now all of a sudden a real possibility. If that delinquency rate can move down to 10%, the HOA could then apply for a loan to pay for these, which then pays for these improvements over the life of that loan, potentially 15 years. Into the future users of the HOA. So if a new owner moves in 5 years from now, they're also paying part of that. It's both a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because that spreads it out. It potentially means a higher HOA fee for the potential new buyer, and that may scare some buyers off. So it's all things to weigh. So all these different options. What are outside the box ideas? You know, what else out there to help us bridge that gap and figure it out? You know, we've heard asking the question, could a building or a set of buildings secede from the HOA, become their own HOA? That is a possibility. There are legal fees associated with that, of drawing up the new declarations, because right now the HOA is a corporation made up of you, and to then leave from that, we'll have to then create a new corporation to figure out who those common areas belong to and who's going to pay for that maintenance. Right now, it's all on one water tap. A water tap, I'm not sure what Westminster's price is, but generally it's $20,000, $30,000 or more. Some cities charge $80,000 per water tap. That's for development paying for itself. And so in order to separate itself out, it would have to have its own water bills and figure that out. There are amenities. Would this new HOA be allowed to use those amenities or not? If there is a tennis court and other gardens, this is a possibility, but a lot of detail and issues would have to be worked out. We want to make sure if that is the path people want to go down to before heading that way, because that's also a lot of expense to get the nuts and bolts of that. Is it possible just to scrap it, dissolve the whole HOA? That's the number one thing I hear when I work with HOAs. Let's just get rid of it. Well, who's going to own all that common areas? It is possible. I actually have worked with an HOA who did this, but it was a much smaller HOA, and they were able to get to 100% agreement to do that and sell off at the exact same time. So they found a buyer who's willing to take that risk and buy the whole thing from everyone. But that is a lot of units to have them buy, and a risk if all 400 have to agree. If one person holds out, it doesn't work, because someone has to take over those common areas and then maintain that themselves. What about a special district? This is a likely possibility. We haven't looked into complete detail on it, but there are metropolitan districts that we could look into, or a neighborhood improvement district, which it's a taxing entity. So instead of a special assessment or HOA dues, it creates a property tax, which then gives better rates on the bond market to have an influx of money. So if they turned and bought those common areas by generating funds from the bond market, that's something we could look into. But again, just going down that line is an expense. It's also on a timeline. Bond markets are only open at certain times of the year. So we have to work out all of those details and part of that phase plan and making sure we're still moving forward. And then with all of that phase plan, at the same time we're generating those ideas, we need to also generate a vision, what people want to have in their goals. So all of those ideas can be measured on that vision to figure out which one we're going to go down. This slide was up in the beginning because it's really important. How do we make these very, very tough decisions? There are many options out there, and there's a lot of emotion and a lot of anger. You guys are seeing it here now. So we have to find a structured way of distilling that and figuring out, here's how we're going to make that decision. We're going to generate as many possible ideas, look into them as much as possible, and also generate what the community wants. What is the goal? What is the vision for your homes and your community? So we make sure that plan is working towards that. We're going to measure that with a cost effectiveness. How much does it cost? How effective is it? We can pick out our elements through how effective they are at reaching the elements and what's most important to you. In order to get to those goals and visions, we're going to do a little bit of exercise. And we're running about exactly 15 minutes behind, because we started about 15 minutes late. So we should still be out of here on time. This exercise will take about 20 minutes or so. And then we'll do the exercise, and after that, we'll have a chance for the community forum for the last half hour or more of the meeting. But remember where we are in this process. Again, I want to come back to this slide. We are now moving from Captivate into Collaborate. So I think we got everyone's attention. A lot of people showed up. It's a very big, scary number. Now, that's what we're starting now. We are now moving, sir. Excuse me, sir. We are now moving from that Captivate into Collaborate. So here's now where we begin that Collaborate process. So we're going to do two things. We're going to run an exercise to begin developing those goals and visions. And then we're going to move into the open community forum to make sure everyone has a chance to talk. And so, again, we're not evaluating issues yet. We're only starting to discuss certain items to then be able to have a real plan to evaluate. This is a long process, and I'm very sorry, but HOAs take time, but it's important to do it right. So we're taking this step by step. So the first exercise we're going to do is called a SWOT analysis. And many may have heard this, a lot of businesses do this. But it's a way to look at your HOA and figure out what is good about the HOA and what's not good about it. So we can figure out, we want to focus on the strengths and capitalize on the opportunities, and then figure out ways to work with weaknesses and threats. So the things across the top, strengths and weaknesses, are internal to the HOA. What is inside the HOA? So the strength of the HOA can be the people that are here who are activated and a part of this. That's a strong strength. A weakness of the HOA can be limited funds. That's part of the HOA. External things, opportunities. Maybe there's some development going on nearby that is going to help property values, but we need to make sure that Prospector's Point is there to capitalize on that. Threats are things like the City of Westminster and the insurance policy, watching to make sure that improvements are made and the homes are kept safe. So right now we're going to have Chris come up. And if you wouldn't mind getting in a line at these microphones, and this is the chance to talk about what you guys find are the strongest points of the HOA and what are the weakest points of the HOA. Please try to keep this brief, and we're going to describe this so everyone can see it. And we will use this to start developing those goals and visions. And so again, this will be the time to talk about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we'll have an opportunity after this for the open community forum. So please, let's focus on this activity, and I'll keep reminding that as well. Okay.
You got a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat for me?
I'm afraid I have to admit that we have a weakness, and that is the unwillingness of the board to address the fraud, the theft, and the unwillingness to prosecute that.
So,
a weakness. The lack of action by the board, by management companies that we've had in the past. The complete disregard for the community and people just busy bitching at each other.
Yes, I think it's safe to say it would be considered a community at odds at times.
Always.
Yeah. Community at odds, difficulty in decision making. Oh, sorry.
I have a weakness. I know that the HOA is supposed to be made up out of every single unit. Every single person has a voice in their share of the HOA. But they will not allow, if the owner themselves can't be that person to be on the board, they will not allow somebody that I suggest that I want there to represent me be on the board because they don't own the unit.
Right. And I assume probably that's something that's written into the governing documents of the bylaws, I'm not sure. You have to be an owner to sit on the board.
I take that as a weakness.
Number of renters, so a high number of renters.
As an owner, I have other things going on. I don't have time to invest all that extra time. I had
of homeowners who are absent.
My tenant is an engineer and had all the desire, all of the time, all of the willingness, all of the smarts. He has the ability to tighten budgets and do things smart and wise, has construction knowledge, and I think that it is unfair that he was unable to be on the board.
Okay, so we'll go one at a time.
Strength is $984,000, and dues. Weakness is the abuse and the just absolute lack of control or accountability of the spending of that.
So difficulty stretching HOA dues to make repairs.
Yeah, better than stretching, managing money, right on. We need representatives that look at the fact.
I said the absolute
misuse and abuse of those funds. That's what I said. I didn't say stretching meat.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm coming just before this part, is that we have drugs. In our community, we have a huge influx of drugs and gang members, and I can sit on my front porch and I don't even feel safe anymore. So it's not it's not a positive, it's a negative.
So there are probably a lot of problems with the HOA that might not be.
It's been years and years and years that we've seen corruption and lack of ethics.
It's not just a weakness, it's a threat, because we don't feel safe.
Okay, safety.
We have items being stolen out of our cars, batteries, property, windows being broken into, and the wonderful city of Westminster does absolutely nothing to follow up. We do not have them up. They don't have our backs. They do nothing. We don't have anybody monitoring the parking lot. It's not safe. Graffiti. Again, I'd like to reiterate what Alita said. There's drugs, violence. The reason why the parks and the tennis court looks like crap is because the kids that are over there don't take care of it.
And I think these are things that we've heard come up over and over again at community meetings. Right.
So we have no strengths at this point.
No,
There are very
absolutely.
little strengths.
I'm saying there are a lot of things that we have to decide how they fit into this, how we prioritize them in terms of, when we start considering this project, how concerns like that get addressed.
Right, because where do my dues go? Where do your dues go? It's not going for any of this. It's going to line somebody else's pocket.
Howdy. Yeah, I'll agree with her, because when I moved in, I had a car broke into stereo. And about a month later, probably my pickup was stolen, so now I got a piece of junk. I said, who's gonna bother that? 2 weeks later, 2 weeks ago, they stole a battery because, some people get the privilege for some reason that was used to be on the board of having free parking garage. Why? Because you do know that I have had major problems. Why can you not give me? I'm not asking for one, but why can't I have free parking in a garage like some people? And when did we get into the business, the old homeowners? I'm not talking about this new one. When did we get into the business of buying condos, where we were supposed to manage the place, and they'll buy condos and think it was a good investment? You know where that went. And another thing I have to mention is, 3 years ago, my neighbors got their tree cut down. I had a cottonwood, and a couple dead branches maybe. I called Chris, and he told me it was a mistake. Well, I've been calling back, and I did get some response. They've been doing okay, but they haven't come up. I think they need to be replaced as soon as possible. And my living room is just notorious. We face right into the sun. And there are there's a lot more, but
so
I know.
There are a lot of things. Reassessment of security.
I would
new trees under opportunities. So yes, I think
let's
well, honey locust is what I think would be.
I'll put honey
locust in Q&A.
I know we've mentioned the HOA with all the weakness and the difficulty with the HOA and the spending of the money and how it's managed. But I do want to point out a strength. I am pleased to see Martin and Martin here. I do believe that they're a reputable company. As a homeowner, I would definitely feel good about having them working on my property. So I'm happy about that. Finally, somebody is bringing something forward to show that we're not just hiring one of the board members' brother-in-laws to come fix our crap with a Band-Aid. So I'm happy to see that somebody who really knows what's going on is looking at my property.
Yes, I'm not sure whether this has been mentioned or not, but I I have noticed over the years there's, you know, with the contractors that have been selected to work on the property, maintenance and repair work and whatever, so many of them lack very much skill. They're very sloppy. They just don't do a good job. And I think a lot of that had to do, of course, with the people that at the time were running managing our comp. So I would like to see a lot less of, you know, you don't necessarily have to pick the lowest bidder.
Sure.
And take the prize.
That's an opportunity, Chris.
I'd say so. George.
How y'all doing? Vote for me. I just want to remind everybody that this board is not here to be a big fish in a small pond. That's not what they're for. They're here to serve the community, period. And I'm eating. That's what they're here for. And like that, right? Vote for me.
Okay. All right, thanks, George.
Thanks, George.
Any other opportunities or strengths people would like to point out?
Yes, strength.
Okay.
It's the land that Prospector's Point sits on. It has tremendous value, and the opportunity is to find a developer that will buy that land and start fresh and new.
Okay.
Since hindsight 2020, but since the city of Westminster originally okayed the plan and the inspection of the community when it was built, do you think it would be helpful in securing a loan from them, a low-interest loan, for the reconstruction of this project?
So an opportunity would be to get a loan, and we have tried with the city unsuccessfully, but we do have a bank that is interested.
Good evening. Just a simple suggestion for the opportunity. I'd like to see maybe waiting till we get about 3 or 4 inches of snow until we send people out. I don't know how many would agree with that, but I have seen the people show up with about 1 inch, maybe 2. Don't think that it's a good use of money. Obviously, we're spending that money.
So that's a good way to save money, is to change the contract to 4 inches from 2. Or maybe to change the snow removal.
I wouldn't doubt that, you know, different places, due to the way that they sit, could collect more snow, but literally at my condo at 2750, there's been numerous through the 8 years that I've lived where they get out there less than 3. And I do believe in the past companies, they have suggested or if not implemented 3 inches.
Okay, that's very important.
I want to bring up the dues and the paying of the dues. Personally, I think there could be some improvement on both ends. The company keeping track of who's actually paying it and the records of that. And this is personal for me because I have been contacted and sent letters saying that I haven't paid my money for months and months and months when it comes automatically out of my bill pay for my checking account.
Yeah.
So then when I went to refi my other property, I couldn't even get a good letter from you guys with the appropriate information because even after you fix the problem, my records still show that I'm the person that can't pay my dues, which is false. Secondly, I want to talk about the 400 units and the people paying their dues. If I can be a responsible property owner and pay my dues automatically out of my bill pay every month and not even have to worry about that bill not going out, I think that we can do better on our percentage of people being delinquent on dues and having those funds available so that they're not always trying to pull something out of their butt. How are we going to pay for this? Because, you know, Joe and Bill and whoever aren't paying their dues.
So that's great. That's an opportunity probably for us to improve.
And one last one.
Well, I'd like to say, you know, any place I've ever been, I've been in law enforcement for years, when you want somebody, a contractor or somebody to do something, you tell them what you expect of them and what they're to do. And you kind of keep an eye on them, and if they're not doing it right, then you get somebody else. And the problem here is we don't have anybody overseeing or watching. We used to have board members that would get out and walk the property. If they saw something, they took care of it. If we saw something, we'd call them and tell them, this is going on here. They'd be right out there and take care of it. We had some nepotism going on where we had a board member that had her sons doing our maintenance, and it was one big cluster muck. And also we had a towing company in there that was doing it for free. Like I said, I've been in law enforcement for years. Nobody does nothing for free. I watched them one night tow about 20 cars out of there they were parked on the line. They had but first I saw them, they had flashlights looking underneath of them and in them. And I went out and asked them, so what are you looking in my car for? I got a sticker. But anyhow, and I'm familiar with that person because, but anyhow, he towed a bunch of cars to the school parking lot and planted them there and towed them to the yard one by one. Now on the transportation, Colorado transportation involving towing companies, that is not allowable. And he also took cars illegally. He would, they would not answer their phone. People would have to wait 2 days to go get them, and they'd add to them.
So I think the opportunity there is to get a good towing, parking monitoring company, right?
Well, we used to have a good one. We didn't have problems before. It just happened just with this last mess that we had. And like I said, nobody does.
I think something else you mentioned is maybe feeling a little bit more involvement between the homeowners and the board members.
Well, we try, but you got to get somebody to listen to you.
So more involvement of the homeowners in the HOA.
Well, we tried. I volunteered to be on a committee, and they wouldn't accept me. And I've been there 8 years now, and I'm 82, and I hope I live there till I die. But I don't know. I might wake up and find somebody on the 3rd floor in bed with me. So. But
thank you.
Okay, let's go here.
My name is Bill Robinson. I've been in this association. I moved here in 1987. I've had the pleasure to serve on several boards. My biggest comment, and I do apologize for not being here earlier, I was at another board meeting. The biggest problem with this organization is it is not following its directives. It is a corporation. It is a homeowners association, but it is a corporation first. A gentleman a few moments ago.
Following declarations and bylaws. That's a weakness.
Beg pardon?
Big time.
A weakness of the HOA would be not following declarations and bylaws.
I believe that one of the weaknesses of the association would be that it's, how to say this, that its board of directors have not been knowledgeable about their directors, about their work, and have not enforced it. It has been more of a tea club that goes through that.
Board of directors.
Gentleman just a moment ago commented about the snow. There are directives in our direction, in our covenants, about how much snow and that. These have been neglected. I don't know if it's a strength or a weakness, but I do believe if we had a group who followed the covenants and the corporation rules, we would not be in this particular situation. Many years we have had no money put into the reserves.
So that's a weakness as well, no reserves.
All right, thank you. I apologize to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks very much.
Hi. So my name is Jillian. I've lived here for over 10 years. I think that our biggest weakness and I think it's more with all of us tenants and owners, is that we're not identifying who's actually at fault here. You guys keep saying that everything was done. Well, clearly it wasn't, because that's why we're here with the old HOAs. I give these guys props because they're actually stepping into a really bad situation and trying to make it right. And they're working hard to do it. And the other thing is, we need to do a better job of actually bringing up the real things. They don't need to be wasting their time, and this is why I stopped going to HOA meetings, was because we're bringing up the fact that the bar across the street is too loud on Fridays, Saturdays. Who cares? It's not HOA issue. It's not an HOA issue. It doesn't matter. So stop bringing up things that don't matter, and that's one of them. I could list many. I'm not going to waste your time, though. But we need to really look at what we're paying for and not waste their time on crap that doesn't matter. So I'm just speaking my piece. Thank you for what you guys do.
Thank you.
I hear an opportunity in that as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm with her in not bringing up stuff that doesn't matter, like the color of somebody's curtains.
Yeah.
I think that it would be wise to go through our directives, go through all of our rules, and make sure that they work with the modern time, the present,
Sure.
and that all of the rules make sense financially.
Got it. Great.
I just want to remind everybody that there has been people, folks that have ran this place correctly. Well, I moved here 5 years ago. I'll tell you what, the parking was right, okay? The pickup, the cleanup was right. Folks got out and did it themselves if the folks that get paid 14 grand a year don't take care of it. Okay? Now, there's been people that have volunteered to be on committees, whatever. You know, these little things supposed to get things done. Well, they've been denied that opportunity.
So that's an opportunity to get homeowners onto committees, right?
Well, yes, it is. And I want an opportunity to make these people stopping the opportunities.
I like that.
Oh, yeah, no, just like quit smoking, you know?
So let's take 2 or 3 more, just so we do save time for the open forum at the end, and an opportunity to ask some questions to some of the experts who are here.
One of the first goals I saw here was transparency, making sure that there's good communication between all of the homeowners as well as the board. Make sure someone's there to watch and oversee the property. And also strong committees, making sure that is moving forward. You know, there's a potential for building a committee to help manage this process. And make sure we also get experts involved. It goes along with that transparency. Make sure that whoever is brought along knows what they're talking about and can help inform with the facts to make those good decisions. Another commonality I heard was, let's get something done. Let's do something, fix the place, get a plan, find a way to make that decision and move forward. And also with that is focus on what's needed and don't do stuff that's not needed. You know, figure out where that important element is. And so if that plan, any plan of action should focus on the needs. But also be smart with that money. You know, make sure there's a good accountability process. The plan should actually have that a part of it. So the elements need to be weighed on that. Get a low delinquency rate and make sure everyone is there to help pay for it. And with that, if you're paying the dues, a good way to know where that money is going. And then also safety was a big one. You know, both with, you know, crime going on and gang issues and graffiti, but also with the life and safety of the construction items. We don't want people to fall and get hurt. That is a safety issue. And so another major goal here. And then the fifth goal that I kind of heard was things on investment. How do we capitalize on on the property values? How do we enhance the community? One of the last strengths we had there was the people here in this room was a strong community. The goal should enhance that and bring more of this collaboration apart to keep the HOA working together and moving forward with that. And then this is obviously very, very extremely draft form right now, quickly thrown together. And so now we're going to move into the next part of the process, is the question and answer, where we get to hear some more of your ideas, but please limit your comments to under 2 minutes to make sure we can try to get, move through this on time. But we want to make sure everyone has a chance to talk about, bring up an idea they may have, to talk about how these goals might be worked. Make sure we have that chance to talk, and of course, get their questions answered from some of the experts. So we have some people here who are willing to come up and sit at the table and help go over some of that with you. And so would you guys mind coming up? Here is here. Jean? Kevin? And Frank and Chris, please also be available for questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
How's everyone doing on bathroom needs or any of that? Should we want to keep moving forward or take a quick break? Keep going. We're going to keep going. Okay. If someone has to go, please feel free to go to the bathroom.
Do introductions here. My name is Chris Krigler.
Quick, before you start, can you dim the lights on the screen? Please. I just wanted to again remind us where we're at. We're going to have another community meeting next week on Monday, same place, same time, 6 o'clock, where we're again going to start moving in to that evaluation, as we start developing some of the ideas we hear tonight, and also those goals, and start talking through some of that to help us make sure we don't lose any momentum and moving forward with that. And so just remind us where we are in that process. And now we'll do introductions, and please feel free to ask some questions.
So everybody, my name is Chris Krigler, and again, I'm the owner of Cap Management. I've had the pleasure of meeting more than a few of you. Please come up and talk to me if you'd like.
I'm Kevin Dunham with Martin Martin, the structural engineer.
Mike Jones, Inspection Supervisor, City of Westminster.
Holly Clayton, Lead Housing Inspector, City of Westminster.
I'm Jean McDonald. I'm a construction coordinator working with Cap Management and with the HOA.
And I'm Frank Cole. I'm the Community Engagement Director with Cap Management. I did just a lot of the background work for putting the meeting together and answering the phones and answering your question, and essentially serving as a resource to Cap Management to help the HOA through this.
All right, this is for Chris and the rest of the panel, I guess. But the question is, after a couple of points, number one, Gene's logic is that new maintenance, new building should be good, a lot easier than old building, old maintenance. That is good in theory, but it doesn't work because there's absolutely no maintenance anywhere. When we are paying $1 million a year for dues, and you, whoever's on the board and whoever Cap is, and I appreciate the time that the board members, it's a voluntary position, I hold you responsible for it when you can't even be proactive and get out there and fix a stupid stop sign. If it's the broken window, if the broken window's out there and it's in the neighborhood, then the entire neighborhood just goes to crap. Because simple little things, and the lady over here mentioned about some things are going on. There's nothing going on. There's no maintenance, no security, no landscaping, no ice removal, nothing, unless we call the police, do something. There's no reaction out of you. There's nothing proactive. There's no vision. And I want to know how you can now have the gall to come to us and say we want $15,000 more when everything to date, and I'm not counting past years, if the board is chasing old money, I don't know who's guilty or who's not, but if they're chasing old money and dumping a whole lot more money than will ever be retrieved, you need to cut your losses and move on. We need an active HOA, cap management, whoever, to do the right thing, and the first thing is to get this $15,000 off the table and start looking at what you're doing responsibly right now today. My question is, why should we even give you 15 cents when we can't trust you with the dues you're getting right now?
I think the message is heard. It's heard loud and clear, so we will make efforts to make sure that the little things don't get left behind as we're talking about all these big things.
He was saying more than that.
Cut spending where it can and use the money wisely.
Chris, the reason we're here is not because of the touchy-feely quality crap, and I appreciate the effort for it, I really do. We're here because the assessment of $15,000, when we got gangbangers, we got everybody trying to run over our property, when a simple foresight, somebody with some kind of vision would say, why can't we get a little security out here? Because we've got elderly, disabled, we've got people here that want to make a nice community. And for you, whoever said it, the 400 cars, the 400 tenants, the Iraq cluster, whatever, cluster them up, it's not 400 tenants doing their own thing, it's 400 tenants trying to do the right thing, and you are doing the opposite. We need some help, and we need it without a $15,000 assessment. It's not going to help.
Yeah.
We need it now.
It's heard loud and clear.
Good evening. What percentage of the association is not paying their dues, and do you have any recourse to start going after them?
10.5% are not paying their dues. 10.5% are not paying their dues. We need to get down to 10%. By Colorado law, you have a collections policy, and we are following that policy. We have sent people to collections, and we will begin foreclosing on units who have not come current on their dues. I think it's about 9 that are getting foreclosed on. It's with the collections attorney. More than 10.5% are not current on their dues, more than 60 days delinquent. We need to get under 10% to get a loan, and we are almost there.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I'm an owner, and I've been an owner for 6 years. I live in Texas, so I'm only here part-time. But I can tell you, when I am here, and I made a special trip to come to this meeting. I left yesterday morning at 4:30 in the morning and got here at 10 o'clock at night. This is the first time in all the meetings that I have been to in 6 years that I have seen even this volume of people that come to meetings that are concerned about their HOA, about their property. Most of these people in this room never show up at a meeting.
Yes, that's right.
I know that for a fact. I think cap management inherited a lot of crap from previous management companies. I think you're trying really hard to do a good job. Ms. McDonald over here does a terrible job because I contacted her about something in my building. She said, oh yes, Ms. George, I will get back to you. And I have not heard a word from her since, and that's fine. She's busy and so am I. But I think you guys are doing a good job. I think this whole community does have to come together. I think we have to be responsible. I think everybody has to do their share. And I think everybody in this room needs to show up at HOA meetings to know what's going on. Not just me that comes from out of town.
Thank you.
We have a monthly meeting they need to show up at instead of just this one.
I'm Alita Cellino, and I'm an owner in 8613. And I asked the board this question that I had a flood in my home in the kitchen, and the floors are buckling. And I called the HOA board, and they said, it's just your problem, you are paying for it. The management company sent out a plumber that spent the entire day in my building looking at the problem, and they said, Alita, all of your pipes that you pay for, 25 foot out, was clear, and the main pipe through the building has not been maintained for about 3 years. And so there's a big clog in there, and that clog backed up into my home and ruined my kitchen floor, and the HOA board said, no, you are going to pay for it, Alita. Okay, there's some responsibility of negligence and taking care of our buildings, and the HOA is not standing up and taking care of it. And so as a homeowner, I resent the fact that I'm 66 and retired, and I'm going to make Prospector's Point my home forever. And I try to make it my home and be friendly to everybody, and my kitties love everybody, and I make snowmen of kitties. And but the reality is that it's negligence on the HOA that I'm going to be responsible for what they didn't do in my building. And so I'm very upset about that. And I want the board to look at that they have a responsibility to take care of those buildings and not say it's just going to be the homeowners forever paying for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And especially since we do have the city and the engineer here, if you have questions for the city or the engineer, please come up.
That's perfect timing. My name's Dory. I'm a new owner, and I did want to direct a couple of questions to the City of Westminster. First of all, was the property originally approved? Was there a certificate of occupancy?
There was.
Okay. And when were the issues that have currently been noted discovered by the City of Westminster?
The City of Westminster started inspections in Prospector's Point in 2000.
And
the recent issues came to light in May and June of 2013, brought to us because of complaints.
That's not true.
The recent.
That's not true. We've told you about 2740 and the landings falling on the other building. We told you those 5 years ago. We were working on that.
Okay, then let me just clarify. We have been doing inspections on the property since 2000. At that time, townhouses and condos that were rentals within all of the 60 townhouse and condo communities in the city were systematically inspected every 2 years because the property is over 20 years old. So, City of Westminster, we were on the property just about every month. There were that many rentals out there. The rental properties, it's an honor system. Not everybody's honest that they have a rental out there. The owners that were honest with us, we did inspections on those units. We have been documenting issues on the property since the year 2000 when the first wall collapsed. I have photographs of that. That's actually in a presentation that I've done to council. Yes, we have many violation notices that have been sent. This was not the first one. This was the most recent that drew about all of this current issue that you're having. Notices of non-compliance were sent to the management companies at the time. Now, the rental owners, the inside of the unit is the rental owner's issue. So the inspection encapsulates the interior of the unit as well as the exterior. So if there were violations inside the unit, the owner of the unit received a notice of non-compliance. The HOA is responsible for the envelope that collects, that holds all of the units, whether they're owner-occupied or rentals. If there were violations found in the envelope or on the site, landscaping, signage, lighting, those types of things, then the HOA was sent a notice of non-compliant. Whoever was in charge and control at the time the inspection was done. Yes, I have many notices, so you are correct, but the one that is here is due to this most recent group of complaints that we received.
So
if I could just finish, in the year 2010, due to budget cuts, the City Council decided that even though we were systematically inspecting the properties, that we just simply didn't have the staff to do all of the townhouses and condos anymore. They still fall under the auspices of the code. They're registered with the city, but we would only come onto the site if we got a complaint or if there's an owner that has 4 or more rental units within the community, which to my knowledge, and I say that very clearly, to my knowledge, we have 2 that have more than 4. So my presence on the property is much less frequent now. It has been since 2010. We are not on the property as often as we were because we don't have that many rental properties there now.
Which we can tell you have not been there then.
May I continue?
Because we could tell that it has not been done, because one, now you're getting at us for all these landings. You're getting us for all the other stuff. So we could tell you that you haven't been here, because a lot of these landings have been falling for 3 to 4 years.
We are out there on complaint.
We had told the management companies about this, and we know it wasn't capped, but we're glad that they're in there. But the thing is we can tell that you had not been out there, because otherwise you would have had us a list.
And
and
I will tell you that when the city made the decision in 2010 for us not to come on, we had many owners who are in agreement with the rental program, that want us out there, that appreciate the fact that we catch things that they don't. They may be out-of-state owners. It's a bonus to them to have the city come in and say to the tenant, hey, this is not just me, this is not okay, you know, for the community or for the city. Therefore, we've had owners that have said we're willing to pay the inspection fee if you inspect. We haven't gone there yet.
The city has one responsibility, and that's to your safety. That's the only thing we care about, and that's all we're trying to accomplish. Absolutely. This is your guardian angel right here.
Well, can I just say, we all pay property taxes to this. Does any of that money go to the city? Of our property taxes? Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a brand new owner. I'm curious as to why I wasn't informed before we purchased about all of this. But also, from what I understand, there is a safety concern. My suggestion is that the city and the owners share in the cost of repair. Clearly, it's been known for some time. Waiving property taxes, whatever it is for that community is an idea. Also, is the HOA a nonprofit organization? Okay, has anyone looked into the Community Development Block Grant for Adams County?
Our staff has looked at grants through Colorado, the city of Westminster, the county, and we're unable to find any money because these are private properties and you own them, so the money is not for private property. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
I'll look again and talk to Adams County. It is for underprivileged, below the poverty level residents of certain county.
Which we fit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My concern is that this goes back to when we were with Colorado Management. I know we were written up numerous times from the city, and because of relationships with the property manager, a lot of that shit was just swept underneath the rug, and inspectors signed off on it, and now here we are. Then that went again to ACCU. We had things that were either patched or fixed, band-aided, and the board at the time said, we need to fix it correctly. Well, we'll just fix it like this for now, and the city signed off on it. And here we are. Why isn't the city being held responsible for a lot of this that was swept under the rug?
I would agree to disagree that there's been sweeping under the rug. The property is heavily documented with regard to the violations that were listed, repairs that were made, extensions that were granted for various reasons. There is a provision under the code to allow that. All of the inspections that were done, that it is not the city's, how do I put this, not their place to say that the repair wasn't exactly what we would like it to be. If it's to code, minimal as that is, we have to pass that.
But
I don't have the luxury to say, you know what, you could really do a lot better. If it is to code, that is what I have to look at.
Which code? The code from 30 years ago or the code to today?
That's a very good question. When we look at the property under the rental code, we look at the codes that it was constructed under. Okay, which would be the uniform.
That we have to bring everything up to code.
If I could finish that thought, those were the uniform building codes. If you were to do improvements on the property, let's say you were to change all of your handrails, put all brand new handrails in, you would have to bring them up to current code. If you are patching a handrail, You were talking about mailboxes earlier. Mailboxes, no, we have failed them in the past for rust. They went in and they soldered on or they welded on steel bands under the code. That is a perfectly acceptable repair. Would we call it the greatest? No, but I cannot require you to put in brand new mailboxes.
If I may speak, big picture, now we have everybody at the table, we are transparent, and we want everybody to see what is going on.
All right.
I just want to say thank you.
Thank you also. Next question.
Hi, my name is Ashley in 8635, and I have a couple questions. I'm kind of wondering what portion of the damage that we're proposing, $6 million worth of repairs, what portion is actually to correct city compliance issues?
I think it's more health and safety or life and safety. I'll see engineer to speak to that.
I want to know, like, by law, what portion, dollar amount, do we need to fix?
You know, from my perspective, what you've been doing to stabilize, and you can continue to do that, to stabilize specific locations, that'll be an ongoing process. And as long as it's structurally sound from my perspective, then you meet the requirements and I can write a letter that indicates that. The problem becomes, and what you're seeing is, that the damage isn't isolated. And so you'll fix one area 1 year, and then the next year you'll have 3 other spots that you have to repair because there's no waterproofing membrane to stop the water, and the deterioration continues.
These people are in this room because you threatened them with $15,000 per unit. That's why these people are here. So we need to know how much of that is actually a legitimate current concern to us.
To solve the ongoing issues, it is necessary to do a complete repair and readdress the issues from the bottom up. But no Band-Aid approach is going to solve your problem.
To answer your question specifically, almost all of that $5 to $7 million is health and safety and life and safety issues. Almost all.
We would ask you to please understand that the city also has a stock in the property. When you call 911 and our first responders come to the property with all their equipment and they're going up your staircases and across your landings, how safe are they? This is an accumulation of deferred maintenance over many, many years.
Okay.
Before we even were involved with a rental code.
Hi, I live at 8690 Decatur. My name is Carol Kemper. You spoke my heart. And so I won't read everything I have here because he said a lot of it. It is said, "He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. He that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much." That's very wise. In fact, God said that. It's in the Bible. If you can't do these little things, and I'm talking to the board and to CAP management now, if you can't do the little things that involve mowing and watering and tree trimming, how in this great big mess are you possibly going to be able to handle these big jobs that are going to cost $6 million? So to those of you up here, I don't know that you've specifically mentioned this at 8690, and Halling, now you know that we have renters. I think you've had some people visit. There's a yellow box that is capping wires from a fallen light pole. That's a hazard in our walkway. There's a railing on our west stairway that is loose. Our fireplace vents are filled with years of bird nesting and a fire and a carbon monoxide hazard. Several of our trees and bushes are dead, dying, or gone. The shelf on our mailbox needs replacing. Have you calculated the extra costs now required to repair the sprinkler system in our courtyard and our sprinkler system inside our building? I don't think it's been evaluated or inspected for years. I think I saw that, and I'm not sure the board may be able to tell me since 2012 or 2011, and I had been in there, and those are very concerning. So those are things that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Robert Cooley. I'm at 8685 Clay, number 203. I have a couple questions and a couple comments. My first question is to CAP management. How is it that the local, or the grounds crew company we have recently, or have right now, recently failed to mow the grass around the two new buildings?
I can answer that specifically. It was a new crew, and they did the old buildings and looked over and said, well, the new buildings aren't part of this HOA. We're not going to do those. They were wrong. A mistake was made. I'm sorry.
Then have they been fined? Has their pay been docked? What has been done to correct this issue other than a stern finger wagging?
I'm sorry, I just know what happened. I don't know what was done. I'll talk to my property manager.
Well, please do.
So a mistake was made. We as the property managers should have been watching the landscaping crew. It was a new landscaping crew. They did the old buildings, not the new. It was a mistake. I'm sorry.
Okay. And my next question is just one in general. What is CAP management doing in regards to complaints filed to them by residents? And I speak of experience because thankfully our downstairs renters now are three wonderful gentlemen. Nothing but high praise for them. Our renters before them were jerks. They slammed the doors, they had parties, we complained repeatedly. Nothing changed till they moved out.
The hardest part about being a management company is when it's homeowner to homeowner disputes. People look at us to solve those. We have brought mediators on staff, but the parties don't want to pay for the mediators. We have tried talking to each of the people. We really refer them to the city and to the police when one homeowner is making noise or making it unlivable for the other.
And I'd like to comment on that. There's been some comments and mention about theft and the graffiti and the drugs. And it's a fact. One of the reasons that this program was brought into being through council back in 1997 was the city's concern for its aging aging and deteriorating rental housing stock, but also because of the number of calls that were coming into city offices with regards to exactly those issues, the blight, the graffiti, the criminal activity. And one of the things that has been evidently clear, and we can prove this, the way the property looks draws irresponsible people. If the property looks like nobody cares, there are actually people that drive through properties looking to see, are the cars up on blocks? Are they full of storage? Is there good lighting? What do the buildings look like? Are the windows broken out? Is there anybody wandering around, sitting on their porch, having a cup of coffee? Is anybody paying attention? Can I get away with what I want to get away with here? One of the big pushes from the very start, and I'm going to agree to disagree with a few of the comments, since I have been the only inspector out there since 2000, that there was a time in that period where Prospectors was fabulous. It looked good, they were full, it was vibrant, people were out talking to each other. It was wonderful. It hasn't always been like this. One of the things that and I hear a lot of comment about, the police don't do anything. I can't speak for the PD, I don't know. But what I do know is that if there's bulbs out, put bulbs in them. If you want to add lighting, light it up like a neon saloon. Let people know that you're paying attention and have some community, together. This right here is a great example of that. Know who your neighbors are. Contact me if you're having issues with the unit that is a rental. That's what I'm here for. I'll contact that owner, talk to them about what's going on. That's what I do. So a lot of what you're having happen is because of the way your property looks right now. I just wanted to
We're taking
to
to heart the little things. Somebody else said, the broken window theory. You let one broken window go and the whole property goes to pot. So we're taking to heart, and that's the message CAP management is walking away with, that the little things matter just as much as the big things.
Because the criminals are paying attention.
My final comment is just to everyone in general, Right now, Prospector Point is worse than the Hatfields and the McCoys. We need to stop fighting amongst ourselves. We need to stop arguing. We need to get this stuff done.
Thank you.
My name is Joyce Husbands, and I'm an owner at 2730 West 86th Avenue. And I just have a very pragmatic question for the representatives from the city this evening. If we fail your inspection that's upcoming at the end of this summer, what are the consequences for the community as a whole?
That's a very good question. So this last inspection that happened in 2013 as a result of a complaint, just so you know, we were invited to the party, okay? The maximum allowable correction period for a first inspection is 90 days. Well, if you saw the 5-page notice of noncompliance, I think it's pretty evident that if you could do all that in 90 days, the repairs wouldn't have been anything that we would have been able to pass. What that 90 days does is it allows the property to go, okay, we've got violations of the building code, the rental code, the fire code, mechanical, plumbing, whatever it is, gives you the opportunity, which is what CAP management did, to get together with us and say, okay, because compliance is always the goal. That is the goal. It's not empty building because it's not kicking people out. It is compliance. Empty buildings are bad buildings, okay? So CAP gets together with us, and well, the city, as a city, we say, okay, what's the scope of work? How long do you need to deal with these issues? We can grant extensions under the code. There's a provision for that, provided that forward progress is made towards compliance. So during this year that I have not been on the site, CAP management has been providing me with weekly updates and with the building official. We discuss this at building meetings as well, what they're doing to bring the property into compliance. As long as you're doing this, we don't want to be there. We really don't want to be there. There are other places in the city that we need to be. However, when the complaints keep coming in, I'm not hearing the reporting that I was hearing. I go out to the site to deal with a landlord that does have 4 or more rentals, and I'm looking around the property. I'm concerned because it's not better. It's actually not. It's actually worse. So that I had already scheduled an inspection on June 30th before this meeting ever arose. I'm coming out to do a full building by building inspection to match what has been done from the original notice of noncompliance to now, what hasn't been done, and what additionally may need to be done. Martin and Martin, Kevin, is the expert. The city, we do not have structural engineers. So when there are issues as serious as what is going on at Prospectors, we'll recommend one of the items that you need to provide is a structural engineer letter. Well, the engineer letter came back confirming everything that we thought. We're not allowed to do destructive inspection. I'm not allowed to take your walkway lids down and see what's underneath them. All I can assess is what I can see. That's it. We don't get up on the roofs. I don't always have access to your crawl spaces. And again, it's honor system. Whoever admits they have rentals. But I get complaints from your homeowners or homeowners. I cannot drive on your site in a logoed vehicle and get out of my car and have people not come up to me and say, what can the city do to get the buildings fixed? It's difficult. So I would tell you that this group here has the best interest of the property at heart. We want it to thrive. Prospectors is a cool property. You have a great location. I hear nothing but good things from people that live there about the community. It's the structures that we're having issues with.
Thank you.
Life safety.
The brick siding is obviously still on the list in the video. My issue with this is that we've already had a special assessment to cover that. Added to the HOA dues at the end of that year. We also got a settlement from the lawsuit for the brick siding, yet it's still on the list and it's still off the side of the building. Where did those funds go?
Thank you.
Do you want to talk about that, Chief?
I can't talk about where funds went. I can talk about
They didn't go the brick siding, I know that.
And, you know, it is a little bit before we were the management company, so we don't have all the history, but was your question, what's happening with the brick siding now?
Where did it go? Where did the money go?
We were told it was in a special account and that we were not going to use anything. We weren't going to use that money for anything except the brick site. Except the special assessment that he's talking about.
I don't want to put you
Okay,
down.
so unfortunately, there's a line item for the brick. But I think his question is, you had a special assessment in the past, you paid that money, where did the money go, right?
Right, I mean, it's still in your quote for the 6 million or whatever, so if anything, it should be out of the quote. That's something that keeps coming up in my mind because I've already paid for part of this, and I'm wondering why it hasn't been fixed and why it's still on the list.
So a question that somebody brought up when we did the first SWOT analysis was, you know, was there theft? I think that is something that we're going to look into again. And so how do we look into that? You know, we're going to do an audit of the books going past.
Inventory the maintenance garage too.
You can come to my office, so please get a hold of me and we can make an appointment.
Thank you.
Is it my turn? Okay, on that special assessment that we had, I have a letter from ACCU stating that was for the 2 new buildings. And that never happened. Everybody paid that assessment. We're told it's for our 2 buildings. All of these people have been told something else.
We paid for your guys' attorney
Right.
fee.
We have no idea where that money went. And this was several years ago. It was before this management. It was before this board.
So we don't have an answer to that, but we can find out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to bring up the issue with rentals. When we bought there in 86-90, we were the first homeowner to buy in that building. We were told at the time there would be no rentals. Okay, that changed when the builder begged the board to have renters. It was not this board. He was granted that right. We have lived surrounded by rentals ever since we moved in. And there's always been problems with at least 2 of them. Right now, we have a wonderful one who is handicapped. It's the first time since we lived there. I've been through everybody I could go through, and there's still a problem. There's been domestic violence in several of the renter units in our building in 2.5 months. Okay, another thing I want to bring up to everyone here. We have to take it upon ourselves to do what we can do.
They won't let us.
We don't do what we can do. We need to feel free to call the police.
Yes.
If we don't call them, they don't know.
Thank you very much. We've gone to past 2 minutes by a little bit, so move on to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire.
My name is Brenda Freeman. I own a unit in 8460 Decatur. I rent my unit out because I am so underwater on it, I am unable to sell it. So it's not even worth what I owe on it right now. I can't even get enough rent to cover my mortgage and my HOA dues, so I'm supplementing that $150 a month out of my own pocket now. And so I guess my question is, I have nowhere to go to get $15,000 to give you. I'm guessing most people are in that same boat. So you're not going to get that money. So what are we going to do? What are our other options? Because I'm not going to pay you if I know that 60% of the other people aren't going to pay you either. I mean, why should I pay you when I know that, another 80% can't pay you? And so you're not going to get that money.
Our best option is to get a loan, because that would be easier for everybody. But I do want to say that
But that's going to up the HOA dues. And again, we can't even sell them. The people that can afford to buy our units are low to moderate income borrowers. They can't afford HOA dues of $300 on top of their mortgage.
After all this work is done, the property values will go up significantly.
How can you prove it? I mean, I'm $30,000 underwater on my condo.
So when you say prove it, all I can say is I have realtors calling my office saying, what is going on there? I've driven my buyers away.
That's right.
So we want realtors to call our office and say, wow, this is an amazing property, and this work needs to be done to get to that. And we understand nobody has $15,000, so we're looking at alternative options to raise that money.
What are they?
A loan or a special improvement district, which would be a bond.
And with that, we also need to hear from everyone, as we're doing now and developing those goals, to make sure that that phase plan matches those needs. So we can figure out how can we phase this over time? Does it all have to happen immediately? And a lot of it does, and at least temporary fixes, but how slow do you go to how much money you save? We're developing all of that plan with community input now, so we can move that forward. It's a long, painstaking process, especially when you have 400 units. And thank you very much for being here and being patient through this process. But we need to gather all that information to come up with alternatives that then we can decide on and figure out which of those alternatives best meets those goals and visions.